Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel, and this short video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous night of the local time. First, we're going to start with Kupiansk direction. Today the Russians published another video of another destroyed bridge in the vicinity of Kupiansk, to be more precise, a little bit to the south of the settlement. On this video we see the Russian strike. Currently it's very difficult to understand whether that was just a regular rocket, missile or artillery shell or aviation bomb, but anyway, another bridge was destroyed. And if we calculate, currently the Russians have already provided us at least 5 geolocated videos of 5 destroyed bridges. As I understand, currently the Russians are mainly focused on destroying heavy bridges. I'm talking about the bridges that Ukrainians can use for redeployment of heavy vehicles like tanks, like personal carriers, like BMP, like Humvees and many other type of armored vehicles, including artillery systems as well. So this is the primary target of the Russians. I believe that there are still a lot of bridges or pontoon bridges, local small pontoon bridges that Ukrainians can use for their infantry and troopers. I'm not sure that the Russians are going to destroy every single one because it is very difficult, but anyway, we understand that supply and support of the Ukrainian forces in this area has been collapsed. They will, no matter how many bridges left, the Ukrainians are no longer able to supply and support their forces in the same level as they used to be able, for example, months ago. So also we see that the Russians increased their activity on the main lines in the main areas of attack in the vicinity of Berestova in direction of Sinkovo. Currently, if we take a look at the map, we're going to see that the main direction of Russian attacks lays along the main roads or local roads in this area. Everybody understands that winter and late autumn is going to come very soon, and as soon as this period of time is coming, of course, the Russians' possibilities to use to be like flexible among these fields will be reduced heavily. So that's why the Russians are trying to stick to the main roads. And for example, when talking about this area, we see that the Russians are by attacking in direction of Berestova, try to get as close as possible to the main road that goes from Berestova in direction of Sinkovo. So this is the main, one of the main attack roads, and the second main road lays down a little bit to the south in the vicinity of Graigorodka. The Russians are pretty active in this area as well, so they also try to stick to the main road and try to clear their passage exactly in this direction. So we'll see what is going to be next. Now we're moving to Kreminna forest, and today we got also a lot of details and updates from this territory. The Russian sources published the video how they were bombing and attacking the Ukrainian positions, but not just bombing. On this example, on this scene, you can see the distance demining method. The Russians have specialized equipment for these purposes, and we see this is not like missile strikes or grad strike. This is just a regular demining process. The Russians are trying to clear the passage before the next offensive operation in direction of Seversky Donetsk River. The Ukrainians from their side try to track and to attack the Russian equipment among the forest. As we can see on this screen, another Ukrainian FPV drone is flying above the forest. The Russians were trying to suppress this drone with electronic warfare equipment, but we see that the Ukrainians managed to find a solution how to not to be shot down by this type of weapon, and after that they managed to discover another artillery system and destroy it. So I expect some activation, intensifying of action in this direction. I'll remind you that just yesterday we discussed how the Russians were bombing and attacking the Ukrainians in Tarskoe using FAB bombs. So we see some kind of preparation. The operational pause in this area has been started somewhere in the end of July, so even maybe early at the beginning of July, and already 3 months passed since the beginning of that operational pause. So basically the Russians managed to regroup, to concentrate some forces, to collect some rounds, and they're ready to continue offensive operation. More sources are saying that the Russians started offensive operation in direction of Veselye. If you remember, yesterday we discussed that some sources were saying that the Russians have already entered the city, but today, other sources reported that the Russians haven't entered the village, but the Russians are already in the vicinity, or probably managed to establish control over few fortifications, shelters, and strongholds in the city. So basically, the clearing operation is continuing, and probably within the next few days or even hours, or maybe today, we're going to receive the final confirmation of the fall of the city by the name of Veselaya. When talking about Artyomov's Bakhmut direction, during the previous night we haven't received almost nothing. The only thing we got is that the Russian sources published the video of FAB strike against the city on the city by the name of Konstantinovka. This is one of the most important logistical hubs in this area that the Ukrainians use to supply and support their forces in Ivanovska, Klishchevka, Andreevka. This strike took place not today, not previous night. This night we just got the geolocated video details about the strike. This attack took place a day ago, on the 29th of September, probably on the night from 28th to 29th of September, and according to information we have, that strike took place in the college. That was a college building, and that was not a college. Of course, there were no students there. Of course, that was the college that Ukrainians were using for concentration of their forces. And as a result of that strike, probably a significant number of Ukrainian forces were buried under the ruins of that building. Now we are moving further to Donetsk direction. Today we got also interesting geolocated videos from Novomikhailivka Paraskovivka. The Russians continue attacking the city, so basically they continue their storming operation in the vicinity of Novomikhailivka, Konstantinovka, Paraskovivka. As we know, currently the Russians are trying to clear and establish 100% control over the stronghold by the name of Zverinets, and to slow down and pin down the Ukrainians, they try to attack and to bomb their positions inside the settlements that located on the south of that fortification. So after that, the Russians will be able to get closer and to move further in direction of these two settlements, but not from the north, but also from the south. When talking about Urozhaine, the Ukrainians published a series of videos of their FPV drone strikes, and as a result of those strikes, they managed to destroy, damage few tanks in this area. When talking about the activity, there are no activity, just regular artillery duels, regular movements of armored vehicles between the fields from both sides without any progress on the ground. When talking about Vremivka, when talking about Orekhov and Bradley Square, today we got some interesting details and updates, and probably the most important ones are coming from Novoprokopovka. After the Ukrainians were completely defeated in the vicinity of these barracks that located on the northeastern part of the city, of the village, the Russians started clearing this area using the FPV drones. And the main operators of this operation is the forces and units of 46th Air Mobile Brigade. On this video we see how the Ukrainians were trying to track and discover and to destroy the Russian positions before the next wave of attack that obviously is going to take place very soon. Furthermore, the Ukrainian forces tried to attack, to be more precise, to concentrate their forces on the northern part of Robotyne, with the purpose to develop their bridgehead in this area at least a little bit for another 100-200 meters, and for these purposes they were trying to concentrate their forces in this area, but the Russians discovered that concentration, and as a result of Grad attack, probably the Ukrainians had some losses and were forced to step back and to change their plans regarding the next steps of attack in this direction. I'll remind you that the main purpose of the Ukrainians, at least at this stage of special operation or battle for Robotyne, is to develop their bridgehead at least a little bit to the west and secure their flanks in this small village. When talking about Verbova, there were no changes during the previous night, just few attempts from the Ukrainian side. That was probably some kind of reconnaissance in combat or reconnaissance in force. They were trying to go to the south, trying to develop their positions in on the edge of Verbova, but the Russians controlled the situation. And those armored vehicles that were sent to the south with reconnaissance purposes were discovered and destroyed by the Russian anti-tank missiles, and as a result of FPV drone strikes. So no chances to develop their positions to the south. So the Ukrainians basically stuck in this area. And today there was published another video, the overall of the living death road. I know that when first time I saw this video, I hope that you can see the screen. When the first time I saw this video, first I thought that this is maybe something like an episode from the science fiction film Terminator. If you remember the second part, there was almost the same scene with like ruins with destroyed vehicles. The only thing that we don't see on the screen is the flying robots in the sky. So basically the picture is completely the same. A significant number of destroyed armored vehicles, very, very bad mood of soldiers, Ukrainian soldiers who are moving along this area, and complete understanding that there is no hope, and everybody who enters here should leave the hope behind them, obviously. Now we're moving further to Kherson direction, and before that another interesting video was published by the Ukrainian forces. The Ukrainians managed to discover the concentration of Russian infantry. Probably the Russians were planning or preparing themselves before counterattack somewhere in the vicinity of Robotina, and for this they were forced to concentrate forces for some preparation, and that was a very big mistake because the Ukrainians discovered them and made a HIMARS strike. As a result of that strike, one truck was destroyed. And furthermore, as you can see, the Ukrainians missed a little bit, so this is the reason probably the level of loss among the personnel was very low. But anyway, probably some of the Russian soldiers were killed or were wounded or even killed. When talking about Kherson direction, the Russians continue bombing and attacking the Ukrainians, and today the Russian sources published the video of settlements like Azatskaya, Berislav, and we see that these settlements are set on fire as a result of bombings, as a result of secondary detonation of munition depots. So everything goes on schedule in this direction, and probably and currently this is the most important direction. One more time, the Berislav, the city of Berislav, and the city of probably what else, Shlyachova and Novoberislav are under fire as a result of Russian FAB bombings and missile strikes, and as a result of secondary detonation. Currently, this is the most important area. Why is that? Because lots of Ukrainian sources and Russian sources and Western sources are saying that Zelensky confirmed and scheduled with the United States, with authorities of United States of America and Great Britain and Kingdom, the next and the new offensive operation that is going to take place in the beginning of October in Kherson and Zaporizhzhia direction. And for these purposes, the Ukrainians obviously are going to start the Dnipro landing operation. They will try to cross Dnipro. They will try to capture some foothold on the Russian side of the river. And currently there is a very big conflict between Zelensky and the head of Ukrainian army, Zaluzhny, because Zaluzhny understands that this is not like operation, this is suicide operation, and this is another way how to destroy and to reduce to zero the Ukrainian army. So we'll see what is going to be next, but obviously this operation is going to be the bloodiest operation ever from the Ukrainian side, and probably after this operation the Russians will launch their own greatest counteroffensive operation, because the Ukrainian mobilization was failed. The Ukrainians haven't managed to mobilize forces during the September and August because of like very bad attitude of locals to these recruiters, and so they failed this operation. The Ukrainians mobilization have almost stopped. This goes with very low steps, and this might bring a lot of problems for the Ukrainians in the late autumn and the beginning of winter. And that's it for today. Military Summary channel reminds you to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.